Greetings, everyone. I am Pete Pardo from Comic Book Geezers. Yes, realize it's been a long time. Bill and I have taken quite a few months off of doing any content here on the channel for kind of like a variety of reasons. Just busy life, summertime, just way too much going on for both of us for the most part. And just not enough time to read comics. I haven't been buying much of anything. And, you know, after however many years we've been doing this now, we've talked about so much stuff that's already in our collections. And it just gets to the point where it's like, okay, what are we going to cover? Do we have time for it? So we've taken a break. And we may continue to take a break. We'll kind of see how it goes. But I did see a movie yesterday that I wanted to talk to you about, and I'm going to go see the Superman movie this week too. But anyway, I just caught Fantastic Four First Steps, just saw it yesterday, and I wanted to talk about it. And I want to thank Craig Kaminsky for reminding me that, Pete, you should do an episode. You just saw the movie, do an episode. Yes, I guess I should do that. I still do have this channel, right? So yeah, directed by Matt Shakman. Okay, who of course also directed the WandaVision series, which I quite liked. I thought it was very good. He now tackles Fantastic Four. So this is really, you know, you've got the early 90s film, which is kind of really cheesy but kind of charming. You have those other two films, which came out, in the early 2000s, which were flawed but kind of fun. I actually really liked the second one, Silver Surfer. I thought was very well done in that. Then you had that abomination of a film that came out 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was. That reboot. That was the worst out of all. And I don't really find any redeeming qualities about that film at all. And now you have, now that Marvel now has the property, they can do and use the Fantastic Four as they see fit. And I think finally, we got our first really, really good Fantastic Four movie. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen the film yet, all right, I'm going to try not to give away major plot things. Nah, fuck it. I'm going to give away major plot things. Only watch the rest of this video if you haven't seen it. If you have seen it. If you haven't seen it yet, you don't want anything spoiled, I would wait until after you see the movie, because I'm going to talk about the entire film here. So, it takes place in another Earth, right? You've got the multiverse, right? So there are many different Earths. So it's not this Earth, not the Earth that the current MCU is existing in. It's somewhere else. And it kind of looks like the 1960s, which I think is kind of neat because most of us grew up with the comics of the Fantastic Four in the 60s. That's when they debuted, back in the very early 60s. What was it, 1961 or 62? And the early Stan Lee and Jack Kirby issues, right? That's what a lot of us remember. Those are the glory years of the Fantastic Four. And basically, this is not really an origin story. They do kind of take you through over a span of a couple of minutes of how that happened, how they went into space, cosmic rays, all that sort of thing. So you get a little bit of that, but it's very fleeting. And it's mostly done like they're showing a guy, like a TV show host, and talking about them and their story, whenever they take you through the story really quickly. But basically, in this Earth, in this world, they are the only superpowered heroes. It's like, here back on our Earth, right, we've got the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy and, Spider-Man and Daredevil and all these other heroes and whatnot. There, on this Earth, you've got these four, right? Johnny and Sue Storm, Reed Richards, Ben Grimm is the Thing, right? And of course Herbie, the little robot guy. That's kind of cool to see him in there. And they are the protectors. So when our story begins in the film, they have been a team protecting the Earth for, I think it's 4 years. I said something like that. And what's really cool is they take you, like in the beginning of the film, they show you these like montages of like the early foes that they fought, including the big green guy from the first issue, right? The Mole Man, the Red Ghost, and they don't show the Red Ghost. Apparently, John Malkovich was supposed to be him in the brief clips. They don't show him at all. They show the superpowered apes, but they don't. So they take you on these little things. And I got to say, The guy who played the Mole Man, who had a couple of scenes in this film, you probably know this actor, Paul Walter Hauser. I thought he was pretty terrible. First of all, he doesn't look anything like the Mole Man in the comic. Mole Man's supposed to be older, right? He's supposed to be mostly blind. He wears those, the glasses. They've got the glasses right, but everything else, he's telling jokes, kind of getting along with the Fantastic Four. I guess after they fought, they kind of get along. It's just, he lives down in Subterranea, right? So they kept him down in Subterranea. You don't really see the multitude of all the creatures that the Mole Man had. So I kind of thought that was a little bit lame, but, whatever. They wanted to kind of throw that in. I think they should have held on to the Mole Man to be a serious villain later on, or maybe the Kevin Feige doesn't really consider the Mole Man to be a serious villain. I don't know, whatever. So so then they pick up, and I think what's really great about this film, and let me talk about the cast a little bit. So you got Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Sue Richards. They still call her Sue Storm. Like, are they married? Are they not married? He says he's a wife, but she does go by Sue Richards in the comic. She's fantastic. In my opinion, I think she kind of steals the movie. She's really, really good in this. Of course, you've seen her in Mission Impossible and various shows and things. You've got Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. I was a little skeptical of him at first going into the film. I like him as an actor a lot. I think he's really good. You've seen him. He's all over the place, right? He's done the Star Wars thing. He plays, of course, Mandalorian, you know him, right? He's been everywhere the last couple of years. I thought he was going to be a little too old for the role, but I think he worked out very, very well here. He's got this kind of calm, cool, collected, kind of the smart guy on the team. He really nailed that quite well, and a lot of emotion too. Joseph Quinn plays Johnny Storm, the Human Torch. Of course, he is from Needful Things. I totally did not recognize until I looked it up later after I saw the film, because I know he looked familiar, but because he's gotten a little older, he's really good as well. I was skeptical of him at first because I think the Johnny Storm character in the comic, especially the beginning, really young, like late teens, kind of like Peter Parker's age. So I thought maybe he also was a little bit too old for the role, but I think he worked out really, really well. And then, of course, you've got playing Ben Grimm, Ebon Moss-Backrack, I guess is his name. Again, you only see him as Ben Grimm in the early part of the film. And then he, of course, is the Rock Thing, right? But I think they did a good job because, of course, he's mostly CGI. So I think they filmed all his scenes and did the motion capture CGI on top of him. I think he's very good. They did a great job of, like, facial expressions and things like that. And although I think, again, he plays the Thing a little bit different than in the comic. In the comic, Ben is very New York, wisecracking all the time and kind of crude and whatnot. He's much, much more refined and less of all that. So if you're waiting for that Thing, that's not what they do with him here. But it works. It works. The less crude, less wisecracking Thing kind of works here. I think the chemistry between the four leads is what makes this movie so good. They really come across, they tone down a little bit the wisecracking between Ben and Johnny, which in the comic is all the time. It's there a little bit, but it's a little more, they do it out of love, because sometimes in the comic they really get on each other and they really go at each other's throat. But here it's a little less. There is the dynamic between Johnny and Reed as my older brother-in-law, the brains and leader of the group. Johnny in the comic is always complaining that he's the kid, you stop being such a boss all the time, stop being such. There's a little bit of that there. The love between the brother and sisters there, I think it's a really good dynamic. You have Julia Garner, plays Shalabal. Again, going into this film, I was very skeptical of them choosing Shalabal as the Silver Surfer instead of Norrin Radd. Of course, in the comic, Norrin Radd saves his planet from destruction from Galactus by making a deal with Galactus, sacrificing himself. I will be your herald. I will help you go out throughout the universe to find planets to eat. Just save my planet, the people I love, and the love of my life, Shalabal. Shalabal is his wife. Okay, so here They bypass Norrinrad altogether. There is no Norrinrad, even when they do a little brief glimpse into Shalabal's character pre-Galactus. There's a child, they show you a child, they don't show you Norrinrad, any man in her life. Again, Marvel does this all the time. They replace male characters with female characters and vice versa, and whatever. I had an issue with that at first. After seeing this, I think she does a fantastic job as a Silver Surfer. Captures very, very much the kind of angst that was always present in the Norrinrad character. That I hate that I'm doing this, but I had to do this type of thing. At first, you get the impression that she is going to do whatever Galactus wants her to do, and it's just the way it is. But about midway through the film, you start to see that there are regrets and things like that, and she really has a problem with what she's doing. But I think she does a really fine job. I think she looks great. I think they did a fine job with her on the surfboard, and again, just looks really, really good. So my initial kind of issues with the choice, about halfway through the movie, I kind of forgot all about it. I was like, all right, it is what it is. Ralph Ineson plays Galactus. Galactus looks incredible in this. For all of us who were just absolutely devastated how they treated Galactus in the previous iteration of Fantastic Four on screen, he's everything you wanted. He's enormous. He's immense. He moves slow and mechanical. He's got the booming voice and the piercing eyes, and everything about what he was wearing and the helmet looked amazing. So good. So I think the menace of Galactus was really portrayed very well here. I think they did a great job of the Silver Surfer and Galactus in this film. There are various other side characters and things like that, none of which I think really make all that much difference in the grand scheme of things, so I'm not going to bother talking about them. But basically, the story, right? Galactus, they get a message, all these messages, which are actually people from Silver Surfer's world. There's something going on, right? They get the message from Silver Surfer, comes down, lets them know that Galactus is coming for your planet. This is what's going to happen. So they try to, all right, we're going to go meet with Galactus. We're going to try and put a stop to this. And Galactus basically, and in between all this, while this is happening, while they're shooting into space, going to meet up with Galactus and the Surfer and find out what's going on here, they show you at the beginning of the film that Sue is pregnant. Okay, apparently they had been trying for years, hadn't happened, they kind of gave up, and boop, she's pregnant. So, of course, we know Franklin Richards is the baby, right? So when they get to meet Galactus, Galactus is basically saying, well, I will spare your planet, but what I want is that baby in your belly, because I know that baby has infinite power, and that baby is going to take over this role that I have so that I can finally have peace and stop going and devouring worlds. So basically, no different than the comic, Galactus has always been very upset with his plight, that he has to do this, that he has to feed that hunger and go destroy and eat and consume all life forms on all these planets. He doesn't really want to do it. He just has to do it. So he's almost like a villain by default. So here he's thinking that child is going to take my role here to be the devourer of all worlds so I can go and finally be at peace and not do this anymore. That's his plan. And basically, of course, they're like, that's not happening, right? So they fight, whatever. Then they escape. There's a great chase scene where they get back into their spaceship and they're kind of zipping through time, whatever, and trying to escape the Silver Surfer. Very, very cool sequence in the film. And while they're doing that, she's like going into labor, right? So finally they're up in space. She has the baby. They're away from their Earth for like a month dealing with this whole situation. So when they come back to Earth, they have not taken care of the Galactus situation, and now they have the baby. So basically when they come back home, everybody's like, okay, is the threat from Galactus taken care of? Are we good? Are we safe? And they're like, no, we don't know. We were not able to strike up a deal with him, and we're not really sure what's going to happen. It's like, well, what kind of deal did he want? And they're like, well, he wants our child. And everybody's like, why wouldn't you sacrifice your child to save an entire planet? So you're basically going to just sacrifice us because, whatever. So then this kind of bad relationship between the Fantastic Four and the people of their Earth kind of starts because they think that they're being selfish, not willing to save us, mankind. Give up your child so we can all live. And they're like, I'm not giving up my child. So eventually they come up with sort of a plan to rid Galactus, and they convince the people that, like, we're all a family together. We're not giving up our son, but we're going to work together to get rid of this threat. So they come up with this plan to trap Galactus, to bring him down to Earth, whatever. That then is the whole second half of the film, which the big huge battle when Galactus comes down to their Earth, and again, looking enormous, like standing tall about like freaking Godzilla, right? And there's a great battle that ensues. The plan starts to work, then it doesn't work. Galactus catches onto it, right? Whatever. It's an awesome, awesome sequence. And eventually, what winds up happening, again, spoiler alert, Sue is able to use her powers. Again, she's got the invisibility thing, but she also is able to, create whatever it is to these power. I don't even know what you call it. She's able to force, because Galactus goes and finds Franklin. He has him. So between her and the Thing and Mr. Fantastic and Johnny Storm, they're able to kind of back up Galactus. And they've created kind of like this field where they can trap him and send him somewhere else. This like teleportation thing. They show you that at the beginning of the movie, something that recreated. Where he goes, I don't know. That's what's so as they're trying to get him, Sue uses everything in her powers to, with the help of the other three, to push him into this like little vortex they've created to transport him somewhere else. At the last minute, he kind of comes back in, which is a great sequence, and then out of nowhere comes the Silver Surfer, and she goes and she realizes I can't let him do this, and she goes and with all of her cosmic powers smashes him and her into the portal, and bloop, they're gone. In doing that, though, Sue has utilized so much of her own energy, she winds up dying. Okay, and then little Franklin brings her back to life. And they realize that he is not like us. He's greater than us, right? So then at the end of the film, everything's back to normal. Everything's great, whatever. They then fast forward 4 years later for the bonus scene, one of the two bonus scenes. I didn't stay for the last one because I heard it was nonsense and it had nothing to do with anything. But the mid-credits bonus scene is basically... Franklin is now 4 years old, right? They're hanging at home, so Sue and him are hanging at home, and she goes into the kitchen to kind of like help Herbie with something, whatever, leaves Franklin doing whatever he's doing. He's reading a book or whatever, and then she hears some noises, and she goes back into the room where they were, and there you see Dr. Doom, the green cloak, the metallic hands, leaning over Franklin, but he's got his faceplate in his hand, but you don't see his face. And him and Franklin are kind of having a conversation, and that's how it ends. My thoughts on that. Okay, you've introduced Dr. Doom now. What's he there? Is he now going to be someone who's trying to harness the power of Franklin again? Is now I'm thinking, is Franklin Richards going to be now like the centerpiece of everything in the Marvel Universe going forward because of potentially how powerful he is? I don't know. I mean, in the comic, there was many years before Franklin came along, right? So this is all of a sudden reintroduced the Fantastic Four here, and Franklin is like a big part of it all right off the bat. Okay. I don't like, and I've been predicted this, as soon as I heard that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be Dr. Doom going forward, I'm like, all right, so you've got this big name in Robert Downey Jr. again, playing another character here in the film. Somehow I think it's going to be tied to Tony Stark from a different universe. Somehow it's going to be tied to it. But if you're a fan of the comic, in the comic, Dr. Doom never takes that faceplate off. And in the very few instances where he does, you don't see him, but whoever sees him is like, oh my God, because he is ridiculously scarred. I really hope that in going forward, we don't get this situation where Dr. Doom is constantly taking, because, Tony did it as Iron Man all the time. He's constantly taking that faceplate off. When you got someone like Robert Downey Jr. signed to do these films, you want to see his face, right? But you're not supposed to see the face of Dr. Doom. So what are they going to do going forward? I don't know. I really hope it's not. He looks normal. He looks like Robert Downey Jr. He's not scarred, and he just takes that off constantly. I hope that's not the case, because that's not Dr. Doom. Right? But we'll see. I'm going to hold my judgment. So my overall thoughts on this film, it was very enjoyable. It was very heartwarming. There was humor in it, but it wasn't overdone. And I think that the main characters worked really, really well together. I thought the action sequences and the special effects were very well done. Had a retro look to it. It wasn't overblown. There was CGI, but none of it, to my eyes, looked bad. It all looked really good. The score, the music of the film is excellent. Really, really good score to this film. It was big and bombastic, but not like ridiculously so. Thought it was very, very well done. Side characters were all good. Like I said, Galactus and the Silver Surfer, really, really well done. A couple of little nitpicks here and there, which I've already mentioned. Not a big deal, but I felt walking out of the theaters, I felt very satisfied, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So, like I said, hopefully, if you've seen it, you can let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. For those of you who are still with us and haven't seen the film, I'm sorry that I spoiled it for you, but, these reviews are meant to be full of spoilers, so, we can get the dialogue going back and forth, because this is one of those films where, you can't really review in full without revealing stuff that happens. So how that sets up things going forward, if you've seen the end of the Thunderbolts film, right, you know that there is a scene of like a Fantastic Four ship flying through space heading towards our Earth. So you know that there's a little bit of gap on what happened. So I'm wondering if Dr. Doom winds up kidnapping Franklin Richards. We don't know that yet, right? And they're traveling through time and through the multiverse to go and save him. And that's what we saw at the end scene in the Thunderbolts. We'll know fairly soon enough, right? But there's a lot of gaps there to take us to Doomsday, right? So we'll kind of see what all happens before the next Avengers film. So maybe we'll get a little snippets along the way. We'll see. So anyway, that's my review. Thanks for watching us here at Comic Book Geezers. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please hit the like button before you leave. Let us know your thoughts of Fantastic Four First Steps down in the comments below. If you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see it, come back here and let us know what you thought. I'm Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.